People who bought storage units at blind auctions, what's the wildest thing you found in one? I'd been buying storage units for 3 years when I won the auction that changed everything. What started as a side hustle to pay off student loans became my full-time job after I found a unit filled with vintage guitars worth $30,000. After that score, I was hooked on the adrenaline rush of not knowing what treasures or trash waited behind those metal doors. The auction was at Westside Storage on a sweltering Tuesday morning. Only about 15 people showed up, mostly regulars I recognized. There was Cynthia, the antique dealer who always bid on units with furniture, Dennis, who bought everything and sold it at flea markets, and Rhonda, the woman who somehow knew which units contained electronics just by looking at the lock. Unit 247 caught my attention immediately. The auctioneer, a gruff man named Pete, cut the lock and rolled up the door about 2 feet, just enough for us to peek inside without entering. Standard rules: no touching, no flashlights, 5 minutes to look. What I saw made my pulse quicken. Stacked boxes labeled personal files in neat handwriting, a small safe pushed against the back wall, expensive-looking luggage, and something that made everyone else lose interest. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, suggesting it had been sitting untouched for years. The other bidders wandered off after 30 seconds. Old boxes meant old junk to them, but I'd learned to look deeper. Those personal files boxes were uniform, professional. The safe was a Browning, the kind that costs $2,000 new, and that luggage, Toomey brand, high-end stuff. "Do I hear $50? Pete called out. "50, I said immediately. Silence. 60, more silence. I was the only bidder. Sold for $50 to the gentleman in the blue cap. 20 minutes later, I backed my truck up to Unit 247 and started loading. The boxes were heavier than expected, filled with thick file folders and binders. The safe would need a dolly. I'd worry about getting it open later. At home, I started with the luggage. Designer clothes, size medium men's, tag still on. Someone had spent serious money and never worn any of it. In the front pocket of one suitcase, I found a business card. Vincent Torres, financial advisor, Torres and Associates. The first box I opened was labeled Client Files 2019-2021. Inside were hundreds of investment portfolios, bank statements, and financial documents. Names I didn't recognize, but the numbers made my head spin. Accounts worth millions, some worth tens of millions. My hands started shaking as I realized what I was looking at. This wasn't just paperwork. This was someone's entire client base, private financial information for what looked like dozens of wealthy individuals. I opened another box. Offshore accounts, then another. Tax avoidance strategies. Each file more damning than the last. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands, Swiss bank account numbers, money laundering schemes disguised as legitimate investments. That's when I found the USB drive taped inside the lid of a file box with a sticky note attached. Insurance policy, VT. I plugged it into my laptop and immediately wished I hadn't. The drive contained audio recordings, dozens of them. Phone calls between Vincent Torres and his clients, discussing how to hide money from the IRS, how to avoid paying taxes on massive profits, how to move funds through untraceable accounts. But it wasn't just tax evasion. As I listened to file after file, I heard Torres discussing bribes to city officials, payoffs to judges, money funneled to politicians' campaigns through fake PACs. Some voices I recognized from local news: the mayor, a prominent businessman who'd been in the papers recently, a judge who'd been suspiciously lenient on white-collar crime cases. I was holding evidence of the biggest corruption scandal in our city's history. My phone rang, making me jump. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "You need to return what you took." The voice was calm but menacing. "No questions asked. Just bring everything back to the storage facility tonight." "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. "Unit 247, Vincent Torres' unit. We know you bought it. We know what's in it, and we know where you live." The line went dead. I looked out my window and saw a black sedan parked across the street that hadn't been there an hour ago. I couldn't fit what happens next in this short video. Watch the rest down below.